What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host. And remember the other day when we talked about how reports came out and sources were saying that Bryan Kohberger was basically lost for 14 hours, meaning that we know the FBI was watching Kohberger's every move. They were surveying him for days on end on his cross-country trip to Pennsylvania. They were even watching him at his parents' house. They were watching him at random grocery stores in Pennsylvania. They watched him throw out his trash in the neighbor's trash can at like 4 something in the morning. They were watching him for days on end, but reports came out that the FBI lost him for 14 hours. That there was a 14-hour stretch. And I believe it was early on in the trip, like right around the time that Bryan actually left from Washington. Supposedly there was this 14-hour time span where they lost track of Kohberger. They didn't know what direction he was driving in, and they did not know the location of his vehicle or where he was at for those 14 hours. But then eventually they picked him up on some license plate scanners, and then they were able to track him the rest of his way along the journey. Well, now, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us already saw this coming, now the FBI is coming out and they're denying that this ever happened. And herein lies my frustration with this case. We talked about this in my last video. Law enforcement is telling us one thing, sources are telling us another, the mainstream media is saying one thing. Of course, social media is filled with rumors, and it's hard to get down to the bottom of what really happened here. It's hard to get down to the nitty-gritty of what is really going on here, because we're hearing all of this different conflicting information, and it's hard to really figure out who to trust, because a lot of this information, it makes other people look bad. Like, of course, the FBI is not going to want to admit that they lost Bryan Kohberger for 14 hours. Now, did they or did they not? I guess that's up for you to decide. Sources say they did. The FBI says they didn't. In my opinion, I'm kind of on the fence with this one. Because for one, I mean, you want to believe the FBI and official sources. You want to believe them over anonymous sources usually, right? But I don't have any trust really in the government. I don't have trust in the FBI. I don't have trust in law enforcement. They lie all the time, so they probably are lying here to save their own butts or to make them look better. But I think there's also a huge possibility that this never happened. That this never happened, that they had him tracked the whole entire way. But I want you all to think about the cases that you've looked at in the past. I don't know about you all, but I've looked into plenty of cases where law enforcement and the FBI, they drop the ball. It happens all the time. Look at the Bryan laundry case. The FBI, all types of law enforcement agencies, walked right past Bryan Laundrie's remains every single day and didn't find them. They searched everywhere else and would walk right past his remains every day for over a month. So yeah, I do think it's possible that the FBI could lose someone that they're tracking. And I told you all along, when FBI is tracking you these days, there's not necessarily an FBI surveillance van following you everywhere you go. They could track you from the random cameras that are on the highways and the license plate readers and all types of stuff like that. But let's go ahead and dive into this article and read the statement from the FBI. The FBI on Thursday denied losing Bryan Kohberger during a 3-day cross-country road trip before his arrest in the high-profile unalivings of 4 University of Idaho students. True crime author Howard Blum, who is penning a book on the shocking slayings, claimed in a roughly 15,000-word 2-part special that the Fed's surveillance squad lost the 28-year-old suspect almost as soon as he left for the road trip home for the holidays in Pennsylvania. The former New York Times reporter claimed sources told him with a bristle of embarrassment that for several alarming hours or more, the chief suspect in a quadruple homicide that shocked the nation had seemingly vanished. However, on Thursday, the FBI bluntly denied Blum's reporting. The FBI is aware of reports detailing alleged FBI surveillance on Idaho subject Bryan Kohberger, a spokesperson said. There are anonymous sources providing false information to the media. Publishing of false information attributable to anonymous sources is not helpful to the case against Kohberger or the American public. A law enforcement source also earlier denied the report, calling the detailed claim about the surveillance team losing eyes on the suspect and finding him through a lucky break absolutely false. Blum needs to go back to his source. That is absolutely not true. Neither Blum nor Air Mail responded for requests for comments. So, the FBI is denying this. And like I said, you want to be able to take their word for it, but does the FBI tell the truth that often? How often is the FBI really transparent and truthful with the American public? Not too much. In fact, the FBI has been weaponized against the American public various times in the past, and I think they will be instrumental moving forward for the American government and their plans that they have for us citizens. But in this situation, I've seen a lot of stuff come out from anonymous sources. Anonymous source says this. Anonymous source says that. And it's one thing if you got sources that you vetted and you don't want to reveal, their names and stuff, but and you got, like the mainstream media, they should vet these sources to at least know that these are reliable sources. But one thing I've noticed is it appears that the mainstream media sometimes is picking up on these rumors that are floating around online, and they're reporting on them. And that's one thing they should not do. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, YouTubers are going to do that. YouTubers are going to do that. But the mainstream media is someone you should be able to rely on for factual information. But we know that the mainstream media is one of the most unreliable sources of information out there, which is why people like me are able to make YouTube videos that people enjoy. So where I'm at right now on this, like I said, I'm on the fence. I do not trust the FBI. If this did happen, I don't think the FBI would come out and be like, yeah, it happened. We lost them. So it's not like I would ever rely on the FBI telling me the truth in this situation. So it's up to you to decide. Do you really think the FBI is telling the truth? Do you think they lost Kohberger? Who are these anonymous sources? I mean, like I said, this case is all over the place. Law enforcement and the mainstream media, they are not on the same page in this case. Oftentimes, they are on the same page. In this case, they are not on the same page at all. And we talked about this a little bit in my last video. I'm worried that some of the details surrounding this case are going to be sugar-coated because we live in a society where people can't handle the facts anymore. People can't handle the truth. People can't handle basic facts. And I mean the most basic of facts. People can't handle that anymore. So I'm scared that moving forward, and I've noticed it a good bit in this case, moving forward, we're going to get watered down, woke versions of these true crime stories because people are going to be afraid to offend someone. They're going to be afraid to tell the grisly true details of how these crimes are committed. And that's where I'm at on this case. I fully believe that there are details here that we are missing, or details that are being sugar-coated in order to protect other people or in order to protect other people's feelings or what have you. But let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and as always, remain opinionated.